Welcome to Higher Ed Athletics, powered by Pilotics. This is an interview you're about to listen to or watch that I'm really happy about scheduling. Just as we kind of head into 2026, I created the show in 2019 when I got accepted in my doctorate program and just decided to go for it. And I had, cold called and cold email a lot of athletic directors. I'm appreciative of every AD that's ever been on the show, as well as college president or chancellor. But I wrote out a list of who I wanted kind of my Mount Rushmore, my top four. And the first person on that list of who I hope to have one day was Danny White in this episode. He was still at UCF at the time. And then I told myself, get like a couple of seasons in there and then try to get him on the podcast. Well, then he took the Tennessee job before you know it. And I kind of have this rule where I try to wait about a year. Sometimes I break that rule, but they had a lot going on. And so then I said, okay, just get to 50 episodes, get some credibility, and then, make the ask. And so really happy with this. The one thing I will say, I always try to bring a coaching question, especially if, a great sponsor in AD Vantage. But when kind of been keeping these questions about 45 minutes is my usual time. This time about 35 to 40 minutes, and I just wanted to get through certain things. I wanted this to kind of stand the test of time. This episode, where it's not necessarily a current project or anything like that. It's more thinking. This is more about change agency and organizational leadership, and that's kind of what I took out of this. So thank you to the sponsors, Pilotics and AD Vantage, for allowing me to keep doing the podcast. And looking forward to a lot of great interviews in 2026. Definitely excited to start it off with Dr. Danny White. Welcome to Higher Ed Athletics. Today I'm joined by Danny White, the Vice Chancellor and Athletic Director at UT Knoxville. Dr. White, thanks for joining me on Higher Ed Athletics.
No question. Thanks for having me, Travis.
Well, so I mentioned the doctor part. So, I started this podcast because of starting my doctorate at Indiana University. And so the podcast I started back in 2020. And I'm finally done with all courses, past quals. I am starting the dissertation next week. And, one motivator of when you go through the literature review process, you're trying to find method and design. Your dissertation I actually found, and yours was because I'm doing qualitative. So I was going to start by just saying, what made you pursue a doctorate degree? And you can maybe just mention where you did it and at what point in your career. And then I felt a little better when I saw how long it took you to complete because I'm coming up on 6 years. So, but you're busier than me, so I don't have as many excuses.
Yeah, I got you beat by a lot of years. I think it took me about a decade. I started it. I got my PhD from Ole Miss and started it at Ole Miss, and then ended up as I kind of advanced in my career. I took some classes at Northern Illinois and then also at Fresno State. And then when I was invited to go back to Ole Miss for my second professional opportunity, it worked out really great for me to finish up the coursework there. And the whole reason I was thinking it would be helpful is to help me get an AD job someday. So at the time I was a fundraiser and had a career goal of being an AD, and I got the Buffalo AD job, and I hadn't finished the dissertation yet. So I think you really, it's hard to tell how your background and your education helps you in your career, but I do think that not just the coursework, but also the relationships I built and just the conversations with, when you're in those classes, as I'm sure you see, there's other people with aspirations in higher education. My degree is in higher education leadership, so it gave me a more well-rounded perspective of the enterprise outside of just athletics, going through that. But yeah, I apologize you found my dissertation because I doubt it's well written, but it's on donor motivation, which is kind of in my wheelhouse, and that was a pretty cool experience to be able to interview people that I had built really strong relationships with in my professional work as a fundraiser and supporters of schools at different level institutions, and understanding why they why they contribute to college athletics.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting. You interviewed donors at different FBS conference schools, and just be able to see your transcripts and how you conducted the study. That's what I was more interested in. But the donor motivation piece was clearly it was well written. I think it was awesome. So it
Well,
helped me a
thank you.
lot. I'm sure Chancellor Plowman appreciated that it was higher education too. So mine's in higher education. And she kind of told me on when she was on the podcast a couple years ago about how she recruited you to Tennessee. What I find her interesting is that we talk about the word change agent, and she's like an organizational scholar and leadership change. That's like what her background is. So I'm just kind of curious, was that something in that recruiting pitch? And if she's called you a builder, said, I want to come in and refurbish this iconic brand. I imagine her background kind of gave her some credibility that she meant business when she was recruiting you, right?
No question. And that's what I had learned about her before I first spoke with her. But to have a campus leader, a boss that has such a strong background in business, and she was a dean of a business school before she was a provost, and longtime management professor, and as you mentioned, scholar in leadership and change management and all those things. And I think a lot of times in athletics department functions. I think the thriving athletics departments, particularly today, run more like a business, and not, as you know, not all of campus operates that way in higher ed, and can operate that way. So having a leader and a boss that understood that and understood the why of what I'm trying to accomplish was important to me. And our president of our system, Randy Boyd, who's a very successful businessman, as is our board chair, John Compton. So learning about all of that before I even got a chance to meet those people and understand that they get it and they understand the value of college athletics done right at a brand like Tennessee. But we had a lot of work to do, and I needed to make sure that we had leadership that was going to support me and empower me to do the job, so I can then support and empower our coaches to do the job. And it's funny how if you have an org chart and you actually discipline to it, and you hire good people and you let them do their job at a place like this, how much success you can have. And we're seeing that happen. We're far from a finished product. We're going to continue to grow, I think, pretty significantly. But she's awesome. She's been every bit and more so of what I was hoping for, and just a great person and great leader.
Well, has being a change agent I mean, a lot of people know about your background at UCF, maybe not as much about your background at Buffalo, but is that just something that's always been ingrained in you, of, raising up, the son of athletic director and a coach, both parents coaches, or is that something you kind of picked up as you kind of just grew up on your own as a professional?
Um, Hard to tell. I actually, my wife a few days ago was going through her old documents that my mother had sent to her of just from when I was growing up, and she found a paper I had submitted to my English teacher in my junior year of high school when I was 16 years old, and the title of it was something about the downfall of college sports, and it was about the economics around the athlete, and the relationship between college and pro. And that was 1996. So obviously, if I wasn't the son of an AD and that close to everything that we deal with, there's no way I would have had that perspective. But we've been laughing about it the last couple of days. It just happened this week, but I just saw that. So it's difficult for me to say, like, how often am I using my MBA or my business undergrad or my doctorate, or how often am I drawing on my experience growing up in a house that I did? I don't really know. But I am really competitive. I get that from my parents and the way I grew up. I was a poor to mediocre college basketball player and high school basketball player. I got the knees to prove it. And so when I finished college, I went to Ohio University. I had a great experience working for Tim O'Shea on the men's basketball staff as kind of I was the GA slash video ops slash academic counselor slash director of operations. We have like 5 people that did the job that I did while I was in grad school there, and then actually got an opportunity to be an assistant coach um, for one season and do the recruiting thing. And I knew I wanted to work in college sports. It's all I've ever known. I've been on a college campus my entire life. And so being at Ohio was great because I got to really have my foot on both sides of the fence, going through the sport administration program there, the dual degree program, and learning from the professors there, and obviously reaching out, which I did a lot of, to people that I had access to that because of my dad and his relationships, and just asking a lot of questions. What does it mean to be an AD if I want to go that path versus being a basketball coach? And ultimately, I decided the AD route was better for my skill set and what excites me about being an AD or being a fundraiser, and even as an entry level fundraiser. I really feel like you can help all of your coaches, your sport programs, your student athletes. But you talk about being a change agent, you're only helping if you're effectively affecting positive change. Are you building new buildings? Are you generating more revenue to increase your operating budget so you can invest more in competitive advantages? I don't want to be a placeholder. And so I've probably said this publicly. I know I've said it to Chancellor Plowman, but if Tennessee was rolling and everything was going great, I wouldn't be here. I'd still be at UCF building a project there that I was really excited about. The fact that it needed to be restored was what made it an attractive opportunity for me, because that's just what excites me about what we do every day.
Yeah, you actually, so studying for this, I went back and watched your press conference, and you had mentioned you didn't want to offend anybody by saying I didn't want to be a placeholder. But
Oh,
you're like,
really?
but you're like, you said the exact same thing. Essentially, you're like, look, if things were good here, because I think people just assume that, oh, when you got hired, you all had the uncertainty around football, and you're like, I would be bored to death if I didn't have to, come in and change things. And I've been like that in my career with much smaller changes, but every job I've gotten in college athletics or higher education, it was, hey, come in here because we need to change this or this problem, whether it's pulling academic advising out of academics, we're going to put it in athletics, or things like that, or our eligibility system's all messed up. It's 20 years old. We got an
Hmm.
NCAA audit coming up, things like that. And people would run from those things. Yours is a much bigger scale, but like, it's, I feel like you're just gonna go in, run in to do it, or you're just gonna. Who would want to coast? I think it'd be boring. I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
do it. So I certainly understand. I
Yeah.
was I was gonna ask if you're. I don't know how much you get time to read. You probably after doing the dissertation, you probably never want to see a book again.
Pretty
Um,
much.
but there's two books that I don't. I was just gonna throw out for people that are watching. So this one's Imagine It Forward: Courage, Creativity, and the Power of Change by Beth Comstock. Some people will know her from. I think she's was or is on the board at Nike. But it's about General Electric change when they had to change everything. And then this one is what every college AD needs to read. Loon Shots: How to Nurture the Crazy Ideas That Win Wars, Cure Diseases, and Transform Industries. I've referenced this so many times when I talk to ADs without mentioning the book, but I just want to throw that out there because, college athletics right now, you need to be a change agent. I do wonder, moving on, when you got this job and you accepted this opportunity and the alignment with Chancellor Plowman, did you think that this year, this many years later, we'd still be in the flux of now as we get ready to talk about collective bargaining?
No. So I came here in January 2021, and about 6 months after that, a little less than 6 months, we opened the floodgates on NIL. Um, we obviously did that without a whole lot of organization. I think we probably should have taken our time on that one, and a lot of us predicted exactly what's happened. It's a highly competitive space. There's people's careers and livelihoods at stake. Um, you have to have guardrails in place. And as we're learning, what the courts are telling us is we either need congressional intervention or we need collective bargaining. And so I've been here 5 years now. I think probably for 4 years we've been saying collective bargaining. And I did not go to law school. I didn't even know nothing about collective bargaining, but I saw the issues we're dealing with. And we hired some pretty smart attorneys, and we have really smart attorneys here on our campus. And I'm someone that I hate unsolved problems. It drives me absolutely nuts. I think that sometimes if you're looking for a perfect solution and it takes you 10 times as long to get there, that's probably not the best way to lead an organization. When we have issues within our athletics department, we sprint towards a solution and move on to the next problem. When we have opportunities, the same thing. So I think we've let this thing drag on for way too long. I don't have a lot of confidence, never have, that Congress was going to solve this for us. And there is a construct within the current laws of our country that there's great examples of. It's called the NFL and the NBA. It's not perfect, and finding a way to right size that to college athletics and in our world and our connection to the academy and all those things is more complicated than what we see in pro sports. But I think there's a way to do it, and I'm fairly confident there's a way to do it. And maybe it's going to take what would the author call that, loon shots?
Yeah, it might be a loon shot moment. Yeah,
a big idea, bold leadership, all those things. It's time to get going and start solving this thing for ourselves, because college sports is way too important, as you know, to higher education, to American culture, the opportunities for young people, the scrutiny that we see on some of these high-paid NIL and high-profile sports is a part of it, and the wrong side of the law that we've been on by those kids not getting a piece of the pie historically is a problem, and it's getting addressed. But 99% of college athletes never play professional. Probably 99 point, I don't know what the decimal number is, but it's the vast majority of these kids are coming to have a great experience and benefit from the leadership skills, time management, toughness, competitiveness, all these things that allow them to go be successful in life with a college degree. And I think that's what draws fans and alumni to be passionate and care about what we do. So it's an important enterprise, and we got to get to the hard work of coming up with some real solutions here pretty quickly.
Well, so athletes.org, Jim Cavall, they put out their own document. Ross Dellinger wrote an article that that you had with Yahoo Sports about your plan, and you've been vocal about collective bargaining and saying you've had conversations with ADs around the country. So two-part question. First part, I mean, how similar, after reading AO's plan, is it similarly structured in the idea and the concepts? And then two, how are your fellow ADs? Or you think they're? I think Jeremiah Dickey is starting to come around to it, but just kind of how are the ADs kind of receptive to it right now?
I think a lot more people are coming around to it. It's going to be more expensive to do it now than it would have been 3 or 4 years ago, and it's going to be more expensive to do it a year from now if we don't do it right now. But more people are coming around to it, which is a positive, and hopefully we get some movement. Or hopefully I'm wrong and Congress steps in and changes the laws of our country to our benefit.
That's also a loon shot, Danny.
That seems like we've been trying for a long time, and not only has nothing happened, we've also assumed for a long time that what they do is going to be the healthiest, best solution. I would rather us do it ourselves within the laws of our country and make sure that it is a healthy solution that works for all the things that matter to us most. To protect the sanctity of college sports, and again, I think there's a way to do that. So I think hopefully with some of the continued building frustrations, those of us at the campus level, in times like this, as we're talking before the interview started, we're in the middle of the transfer portal, and there's basically no rules, and it's an incredibly frustrating environment to be in if you're a coach or an AD, a CFO, a fundraiser dealing with the donors, and everyone's frustrated. And that's not just Tennessee. That's literally every certainly Power 4 school, but even well beyond that. So it's a challenging time to be on campus right now. I think it's challenging for everybody involved. We're also way busier than we've ever been because we have to deal with all this stuff. But we got to find time to come up with an overarching solution, and I have been and will continue to be willing to give that time because I know how important it is.
Do you have any thoughts on the AO? Have you had a chance to look at theirs, and do you feel like it is substantial? It seems well put together. I studied the NCAA or the NFL one in grad school, but they're very similar. But this is more of an outline. This isn't like the document. Like I think some people thought that, oh, this is the CBA. No, this is like an outline
Right.
of what the CBA could look like.
Yeah, and I think Jim has done a great job of building one part of it. And we can say we want collective bargaining all day long, but there has to be a players association to negotiate with. I think that Jim's leadership and what they're doing at AO has been very helpful to get the player side of it organized. We need to get ourselves organized and have a national entity that I think needs to be a national centralized employment agency. Hopefully just for football and men's basketball, the two sports that actually turn a profit, and one that can then negotiate with a players association like an AO. But yeah, I've seen all of that and been working with a whole host of different people over the last 4 years or so on trying to find a solution.
Well, let's move to something less frustrating. You talked about org chart earlier in the conversation about leadership, and we talked about your alignment with Chancellor Plowman. We've seen now Ryan Alpert go lead Georgia Tech, Cameron Walker go to Utah State as you're kind of the latest of your senior leaders to accept AD jobs. They both were with you for quite some time. I know, especially Cameron, I think, was with you at multiple stops. You've got staff that are still there that have been with you at more than one stop. What made these two specifically ready to be ADs at the schools they're at now? And kind of just talk about maybe how you may have mentored them with their decisions because I assume that they had options. Ryan found a really good option, I'd argue. I got to stop at Georgia Tech and meet with Brent Jones for a while when I was going through there recently, but they seem to be rolling with the football season they've had. But just maybe talk about those two situations.
Yeah, no question. Ryan's been talking smack to me, saying this AD thing's really not that hard. Obviously, they had a great football season his first year. Uh, I think they mentored me as much as I mentored them. I really approach my job collaboratively. I feel really confident in the model that we have at Tennessee, particularly on the revenue generation side. And then on the strategy side, and Cam was a huge part of that at UCF and here at Tennessee. It's one thing to go generate a bunch of money and have the biggest budget, but how you use that money in ways that impact the outcomes that we're looking for is even more important. And that's not just the accounting of it. That gets into even before July 1 of 2021. It gets into NCAA rules and investments we can make to give our coaches competitive advantages within the rules and all the different ways to work the margins. And now obviously it's roster construction and those things and facility improvements. You got to reinvest in your fan base if you're going to continue to grow those revenue streams and all of our critical revenue silos, outbound ticket sales, obviously fundraising, corporate sponsorship, licensing, all those things. So we've been working on a model really going back to when I was the head of fundraising and revenue at Ole Miss and got an opportunity to work for Pete Boone there. And he kind of gave me a blank canvas to imagine, what this thing should look like. And I spent a lot of time, and we spent a lot of time. At the time, it was Keith Carter's, now the AD at Ole Miss, and Alan Green, who's at Pitt, and we kind of looked at what pro sports is doing, and this was 20 years ago, so pro sports was way ahead of us at that point in time. I think college has closed the gap a lot, but how do we maximize our local revenue streams? And what can we learn from the NFL and the NBA? And then I tweaked it. How do then we also make that fit in a world where we have this thing called philanthropy and major gift fundraising? and how that also connects with donors who also give to the rest of the institution. So we're not the same as the NFL and the NBA, but there's things that we've implemented and learned from them. And I tweaked it at Buffalo and learned a lot from Russ Brandon with the Buffalo Bills, and then from Alex Martins with the Orlando Magic, and kind of came up with the model that we have here now. And so we all work together on it, and I learned from them as much as they learned from me, maybe more so. I may have learned more from them than the other way around, and they were more than ready to be an AD. It then becomes about the right fit, and I think for both of those guys, they got absolutely great jobs that are great fits for them, as did Alan at Pitt. And we have a bunch of people here that are ready and will be really good ADs as well. I'm that confident in what we're doing at Tennessee and the model that we have, and the people that are executing it are way smarter than me, and they're the ones that are closer to it. So can they go implement it at other schools? Absolutely, they can.
Well, the Ryan one to Georgia Tech, I analyzed some of these AD hires just for fun on the channel, and it made a lot of sense. Same president that hired Jay Batt at Georgia Tech, and Jay Batt arguably had a similar path as Ryan from an outsider's view that doesn't know either of them when he was at Alabama. And so, you can kind of put the puzzle pieces together. My twin brother's at Michigan State football, so I'm excited about what Jay Batt's doing at Michigan State too. So go green, go white. But Georgia Tech is really impressive right now with Ryan. And then, yeah, I think with the strategic side of Cameron going to Utah State, and I think it was also an interesting just kind of perspective is Allen, having a situation at Auburn, but then going back to Tennessee and then launching at Pitt again. You talked about fit. I imagine that it was really good for him to kind of get back into that mindset of working hard with all of you and then be able to find the right opportunity. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, and he came in and helped us through some transition. I needed a seasoned leader at that moment in time, and I knew I wouldn't have him very long. I think the world of Allen, and I think Pitt is a great fit for him, and he's a great fit for Pitt, and will do a fantastic job there. So I've been fortunate to get an opportunity to work with really good people and continue to have that opportunity with the folks we have at Tennessee. We have a phenomenal leadership team.
Yeah, and just so you know, the University of Tennessee is the one place where my wife gave me permission to move the family for a job one day. So I joke with the podcast is easy because I'm never looking for a job because I can't move my family out of Indianapolis. And like a year ago, we were at Tennessee. We were there for a little league football tournament called Rocky Battle at Rocky Top, and we were there, and I knew everything about campus. And she's like, "Yeah, I think I could live here. Like, if you could ever get a job at UT, I'd let you move the family there." I was
Yeah.
like, "All right." I was like, "I hope you're not joking." So I've studied this place a lot, but no, it seems like a great opportunity for your senior team. When I go through the staff directories, I'm like, wow, this is an impressive group of people. I'm sure it's hard to keep replenishing whenever people leave for AD jobs, but those ones have been with you for quite some time.
Yeah.
Last question.
I will say just real quick,
Yeah.
Travis, interjection on that. That's a welcomed attrition for us. I view that as positive attrition. It gives us an opportunity to promote from within and reward multiple levels within our organization. I'm a believer that talented, ambitious people are motivated primarily by two things: what they're doing and how it impacts the organization, and how their productivity and success is impacting their own personal career growth. And anytime we can evoke that career growth in Knoxville, I want to do that, particularly for our best people. We can't always do it. Sometimes they need to move on, but it can be time consuming to have to deal with those transitions. But it's something that we want. I want more of our staff to continue to get to the AD chair for their own benefit, but also so that I can continue to reward others within our organization.
Yeah, not to keep bringing up your father, but that is a big theme of his book that he was on the podcast and talked about with several people of his staff going on to be ADs and Nina, being the successor at Duke, who also came on the show gracefully shortly after she came on. But I think that's a great aspect of being a leader is that you all are kind of encouraging that. I'm guessing it's not easy for them to tell you like, hey, I'm looking to be an AD. And it seems like they've kind of built the culture around there is just work hard. And you keep, it's not just they keep, becoming ADs. Like you seem to like regenerate different positions or move things around, give different responsibilities. Like your CFO, had different opportunities, and now he's the CFO and deputy AD. So it just seems like they also, when someone leaves, you get to kind of internally give different responsibilities that maybe were very different than earlier in their career too. Then they might not have to go different places to get those experiences.
Yeah, yeah, I shuffle the deck quite a bit, and maybe it makes people uneasy. I joke about it in our staff meetings that there's no such thing as an org chart in pen. They're in pencil here. We need to be nimble and fluid. Our world is changing so much, and I don't think you need to have decades of experience to do. None of what we do is rocket science. You need to be a talented leader. You need to be a hard worker, and you need to be close to the fire. And when you lead as collaboratively as we do, everybody on my leadership team knows at least a little bit about the portfolios of their colleagues, and I think that's helpful for their own individual career growth, but it helps us become a stronger organization.
Well, one last question if you got time for it.
Yeah.
The I try to come up with a scenario slash advice question to be built in with some of these interviews recently. So there's a lot of talk about outsiders coming in to be ADs. I think it's kind of overhyped. I think athletic people will traditional athletic department people will probably be able to learn the professional model while they're still in athletics. But if you were a senior level administrator at FBS school today, not the AD, how would you look to sort of learn from the pro sports model or other industries outside of sports to then apply to your role in college athletics? You kind of mentioned this earlier about what you had all been doing 20 years ago, but I wonder if people are, reaching out to the networks and their local pro sports franchises, even to have conversations to kind of educate themselves about the pro sports model. What would you do?
I think it depends on the situation. If there's low hanging fruit, if there's untapped potential on the revenue side, I think that there are lessons learned from the NBA and the NFL. And I I don't know that there's anything that they're doing that we're not doing at Tennessee now. So uh, I think having the right model and the right approach is one thing. At some point, though, it comes down to just rolling up your sleeves and getting to work and having accountability. Like we have a major gifts team, and we have a leader of that team, and there's weekly goals, there's daily goals, and you're not going to raise money if you're not asking for money. The same thing with ticket sales and all that stuff. So the best thing you can do is be really, really good at your job, and the people that you work for find you invaluable and someone that is a change agent at whatever level in the organization you're at, that you can be a change agent, do better than what the school did the year before in whatever you're in charge of, and try to do significantly better, try to shift the paradigm. And if there's things that you see that maybe more advanced athletic departments are doing, or that the NFL or the NBA are doing, that your school's not doing, then don't be afraid to take on a different approach and really think about things differently. But revenue generators are really valuable, but that's not the only pathway to becoming an AD. And as this thing gets more and more complicated, I think people on the strategy side, on the finance side, are increasingly valuable as well. So there's a lot of ways to get to the AD chair. But I think going back to the start of our conversation, being a change agent, providing value, showing that when you get hired into a role, something different happens in a positive way. That's what you need to be doing, and then make sure you're working for the right people. The advice I got, and my dad may have used this term with you. He used it all the time, but early in my career, I was geographically numb. You can't care about where you're going to live. You can't care about how much money you're making. You need to make sure that the opportunity is right, and that's about the responsibilities you'll get, and then who you're working for. And if you're working for people that are going places, that's going to be a great opportunity for you too. And that goes back to our philosophy around positive attrition and the fact that people can get AD jobs from Tennessee allows me to promote really hardworking, talented people that are already in our organization. And when they see that happen, even more talented and hardworking people want to come be a part of our organization. And that makes us better.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I'll recap that what I think about the outsider that I've told people because I do videos just on like the openings and kind of status updates that people talk about is the outsider question. I mean, so I remind people at USF and at Maryland, yes, they were outsiders, but they also spent a lot of time in college athletics. I think some people forget about that Maryland's AD spent 5 years at Ohio State working on campus, but with athletics. And Rob Higgins at USF, worked in the athletic department for several years. And so he got those jobs to leave and go to pro sports and then come back. So I think it's overhyped. I think people need to know the academy. They need to know higher education too. I think that's going to be the harder thing for outsiders come in is, I mean, North Carolina is, doing it with a NASCAR executive. So maybe that'll work out. But higher education, a lot of moving parts on a campus. Sometimes it can be messy if you don't have the right alignment. Fortunately, you all do. And it's why Chancellor Plowman is one of the people I study in my higher education program. And the reason I've wanted to have you on in the past is because of what you all have been accomplishing. So Dr. White, thank you for being on the podcast, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
No question. Thanks for having me, Travis.